Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Excited to be here and tell you a little bit about Derby. See if I can figure out how to work the slides here. Yeah, that's a good start. Um, I'm the development director in Derby. I've been with the City of Derby since 2002. I oversee planning and zoning, engineering, building trades, economic development, GIS, and for some reason the HOA liaison. But my background is engineering. That's what my education's in. I originally came to the City of Derby in 2002 as the assistant city engineer and have kind of grown up through the city over that time. And I've been involved with WAMPO on various committees and subcommittees since 2004, starting on the TAC back then. So staff left this pretty open for me for what I want to present. So you're going to get a smattering of all of those little pieces that I told you that we work with, a lot of facts about building trades and what's going on in Derby. It may come off as a little bit of a sales pitch, but we're pretty proud of Derby. So sorry if you don't like that, but that's part of it. And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about what we've done in the past with WAMPO and possibly some things that we'll be doing moving forward. So quick facts for the City of Derby. In 2025, this is coming from my annual report to the City Council. So, Mr. Engel, I'm sorry, you've probably seen these before. We built 46 new single-family residences in Derby in 2025 compared to 64 in 2024. That is down for us. The average new home value was $320,000 compared to $297,000. So obviously, as we know, all of the home prices are going up. What is different for us is that we had 102 new twin, tri, and quadplex units. So that is something that I think a lot of the communities are seeing as attainable housing becomes harder and harder to find. The builders and developers are moving to a product that somebody can actually afford to get into. So that resulted in 148 new dwelling units compared to only 86 in 2024. Our housing study says that we need to be doing a little over 200 a year to meet the need of the city. So we're still not there, but we're getting a lot closer than we were previously. With that, with those units, the average cost went down to $239,482. So that is making a significant difference in providing a housing that people can afford in the City of Derby. We did 28 commercial permits valued at $48.2 million compared to 31 permits valued at 17.5. So our average commercial permit value went up significantly. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our assessed valuation and how important that is to us coming up here a little further in the presentation. We issued 1,750 permits, performed over 5,000 inspections. We also do, under contract, we do building inspections in Rose Hill. So we did over 1,000 inspections in Rose Hill, and that generated over $600,000 in permit and plan review revenue for the City of Derby. Our engineering department designed and bid and built over $50 million in projects and generated another $1 million in plan review and inspection fees compared to almost half of that in 2024. So we've been pretty busy. We have 647 businesses registered in Derby. And that included 75 new businesses in 2025, which is an all-time high for new businesses for us in Derby. So in my time in Derby, I've really seen the city move from a traditional bedroom community to more of its own identity and its own destination is what we're seeing. When I show that, one of the things that's been exciting for us this year is that we've had a lot of infill development. The map on your left up here is a map that we keep on hand. A few years ago, we actually ran into a situation where we were running really low on buildable lots, and we saw our number of new homes dropping. So we kind of track where we are in our different phases of development. When something gets platted, it goes on the map. And then we put little colored dots that either it's got all the infrastructure it needs and is available for construction. A yellow dot means it's got part of the infrastructure, and a red dot means that there's no infrastructure there, but it's platted and zoned for that. And then the lime green highlights we've got on here are all new developments that are in the platting process being developed, but aren't through that process in its entirely yet. One of the big ones up there we've got up here is Greenwood Village. That's 160 acres. I'm going to talk about that. And then right below it's 120 acres of Sky Ridge. Those are both a combination of commercial and residential components in those two neighborhoods. So the other thing that was really exciting for us over the last year is infill development. That is something we have not done a lot of, but we've got a lot of areas where now people, for similar reasons, affordability, are going in and buying existing lots and then building duplexes and triplexes in existing areas. That's really good for us. It keeps their costs down because they don't have to pay for new infrastructure to serve it. They don't have to go through a lot of the platting and zoning processes. They may have to go through one or the other. It's good for the city of Derby because it puts those buildings on our tax base, but we don't gain any new infrastructure that we have to own and maintain for the long term on that. So we've really had good luck with that. Pleasant View Senior Living was an old elementary school that the school district in our last bond issue built a new elementary school. They evaluated this one, and there was no way you could put in this old school built in, I think, 1956, the technology to make it equivalent to any other school in the city of Derby. It was an unpopular decision by the school district. We had a lot of people come out that had emotional ties to that school, but when it closed, it eventually turned into senior living, which is absolutely something else that we need in the community. And they did a really nice job. They preserved the gymnasium, which was newer than the rest of the school, as an amenity to that community. They built duplexes on the old playground area, and then they converted a lot of the old school rooms into triplexes and quadplex apartments. So it really worked out well. It stayed with the character of the neighborhood. You don't have an old school building sitting out there that is just getting mowed and is kind of an eyesore. So we've had a lot of really good luck with that. Those challenges, those projects do come with challenges. Like I said, there were some emotional ties to those sites. What we're running into now a lot from a planning and zoning perspective is that we're taking a piece of property that's sat vacant for 15 or 20 years, and the people who've lived next to it are really fond of watching the deer eat in the field, but they don't own it. And then somebody comes in and wants to do something with it, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're going to build duplexes there. I like to see the deer. And so the other thing with the infill development that we've discovered is it does take a little bit more hand holding. We have some incentives policies. They're not huge incentives, but most of the developers who are doing these small pocket developments are not your traditional big time professional developers. And so they need a little help walking through and understanding the zoning and platting process. We waive some of those fees up front just because that is something that has put them off in the past. Well, I don't want to spend $10,000 to go through zoning and platting of the property. So we do that, and then we reduce some of the building permit fees, but we don't typically offer any type of incentives like an IRB or anything like that for most of these that would keep them off of the tax roll. So we give up a little bit up front, do a lot of hand holding, but it's proven to be pretty beneficial to us at the back end. So this is some of our commercial development, all the little dots on the map. We have two main commercial corridors. They are pretty different, to be honest with you. The K-15 corridor is the original economic engine for the city of Derby. There's a lot of local businesses along K-15. We get beat up a little bit about all the money that's being spent on Rock Road and not spending money on K-15. You're leaving us behind. We have invested millions and millions of dollars in the west side of Derby, way more than we have in Rock Road. The developers are paying for most of the improvements along Rock Road, but we have invested, and you'll see one of our WAMPO projects has been a really good for the K-15 corridor coming up. So we continue to value that. I met with a builder today that wants to put an office on K-15. He's looking at, we have very low vacancy rates on either side. The difference is that the national retailers can afford the Rock Road pricing, and the local businesses tend to stay on K-15. And he told me today, he says, well, I can't afford to be on Rock Road. But there's still a very valuable area for us. It's a focus of a lot of our incentives and our economic development efforts, and we continue to invest in that area. So all the green dots are new businesses. When I show the council, I always like to put the pictures with that, because a little dot on a map doesn't mean anything. But these are, Tractor Supply and Culver's and Morgan's Steakhouse. Those are all things that people in the community and outside of the community like to see and come to Derby for. So these aren't just a dot on a map. The other thing we did a couple of years ago is we started registering Airbnbs and VRBOs. And so the red dots on there are, we've got, I think, 10 or 11 now Airbnbs that are registered in Derby. So I talked a little bit about assessed valuation. Over the last 10 years or so, the population increase in Derby is about 15.5%. Our valuation increase is over 90%. So that's huge for us. That's your tax base. That's what generates property taxes. A lot of that is, I mean, they feed each other. The more people you have, the more commercial you tend to get. But in our case, we feed a lot more than Derby. I'm going to talk a little bit about sales tax in just a second, but we capture a lot more than just Derby. But the other piece of that is that commercial property is valued at over twice what residential property is valued at for your valuation. So $1 million of residential construction may generate $115,000 worth of assessed valuation, but $1 million worth of commercial construction generates $250,000 in valuation. That valuation affects your ability to bond projects. It affects your debt capacity, and it affects your bond rates. So when you're growing, just like, you know, when you're borrowing money from the bank, people want to see business growth and development. And so the people who are buying bonds build that into the rates. They're looking at your ability to repay, and this is all ability to repay. So we have the Derby difference sales tax. We just passed this in November of 2024. It's a 1% sales tax. 45% goes to streets, 45% goes to parks, and 10% goes to public safety equipment and capital improvements. It does not go to operations. One of the challenges that we've had to dig ourselves out of, I'm going to talk about the other sales taxes that we've had, but is that you build a new building and you build new parks, and you can pass a limited sales tax to do that. That sales tax ends 10 years down the road, 7 years down the road, whatever that time frame is. You still have to pay for operations. So you have to go back and look at your general fund and figure out how are you paying for the people who are mowing the parks. Sales tax has made a lot of sense for Derby and how we use it. We've passed our first sales tax in 2002. That was for Rock River Rapids. So Rock River Rapids is a regional attraction. 57% of the attendance at Rock River Rapids is from outside of Derby. In 2007, after the Rock River Rapids daylighted, we passed the Derby Public Library. 42% of the library members are from outside of Derby. So those are people who are coming in and using something that was built in Derby and are using those resources. So in 2013, we passed one for parks, library, and fire. And then just recently, we got the 1% sales tax for parks, streets, and public safety. And the reasoning for that is that if you don't capture, for us, if we're not capturing that, then the residents of Derby are paying to maintain and operate all of these resources, and the full burden is on them. But if you come into Derby and you look at the parks that we've built with these sales taxes, every weekend you're going to see softball players all over the place. They're eating at Mad Rocks, they're at Quick Trip getting a soda, and so they are generating sales tax that is helping offset the costs for the roads that they're driving on, for the parks that they're playing in. So the sales tax really makes sense in Derby.
Can you make a presentation to Wichita?
I will make this presentation available. So one other advantage for Derby is I mentioned that people are coming into Derby now. The hospital is in the process of reopening. They're coming to Derby for that. They're coming to use our parks. They're coming to Rock River Rapids. They're shopping and working in Derby. So the state calculates what's called a pull factor. This is a little dated. You can see it's from 2022, but our pull factor is back then was 1.26. I think it's a little bit lower than that now, but that means that we are generating 26% more sales tax than our population statewide would expect us to generate. So people are coming and spending money in Derby. So sales tax is a good way to capture some of that. Again, they're coming into Derby, they're using our facilities, they're using our streets, our first responders. If you're anywhere in Derby or anywhere close to Derby, we're probably going to be the first responders. So those are all resources of the city that are being used by those people who are coming in. It just makes sense to let them pay a little bit of the burden to support that. Again, we're not just a bedroom community anymore. If you look at this is off of WAMPO's website. You can get this for any of your communities, but it basically shows who works and lives where. The 10,000 people in Derby that work elsewhere is probably pretty historically accurate. What's changed over the years is that we now have 6,000 people that live outside of Derby who are coming to Derby to work. So that's been a transition. We have a Star Bond district in Derby. We have Morgan Steakhouse, which was partially funded by it. It's pretty good. Um, yeah, almost very similar, isn't it? So the Star Bond's been pretty successful for us. It's a really good deal for the city if you dig into how Star Bonds work. The city can't really lose. One thing that we don't do as a city is that we don't back the bonds with the full faith and credit of the city. So if for some reason, and it has not been any problem for us, our district is well set up, but if the revenue is not generated in sales tax to pay the bonds, the city is not on the hook to pay them. So that's one thing that may be different than how some others have done Star Bonds. The biggest thing the city gets out of it is that all of the stuff that goes in the Star Bond district goes on the tax rolls. There's 150 or $200 million of stuff planned out here that's all going to be commercial, or mostly going to be commercial valuation that goes on the tax rolls and infrastructure. So I talked previously about Greenwood Village and Sky Ridge. That's 280 acres between the two of them. The lift station that is being built is about a $4 million, 1,800 gallon per minute lift station in the Star Bond district. It will serve 500 acres outside of the Star Bond district. And the city would have had to figure out how to pay for that lift station if we didn't have the Star Bonds to pay for it. So there's also almost 2 miles of force main and 6,000 feet of interceptor being built as part of that project. If you saw it on the news, we did break ground on the Crystal Lagoon. There is some confusion, I think, on what that Crystal Lagoon really looks like. If you go to their website, it's a pretty neat product. It looks like you're in the Caribbean. It's blue water. I visited one in Texas. It's fully lined. It's like a 4-acre swimming pool. They bring in white sand and have a white liner underneath. It is not a pond. It's not what we would typically think of as a pond or a lagoon. With that amenity is proposed right now a multi-sport complex, a hotel, 3 apartment units along here, and then numerous amenities also along the lagoon. So one thing that's also a little bit different about Derby is bike paths. We got on the bike path train in the 90s. We have required sidewalks on both sides of the road since 1994. We have over 27 miles of hike and bike path. Pre-WAMPO, or even before pre-WAMPO started taking on bike paths, we mostly did these through KDOT. There were a lot of federal programs with money administered by KDOT, so we got a lot of those bike paths paid for, 75%, 50%, 80% with federal funds. So we've built those, but we've also invested whenever we do a project, whenever we build an arterial street, we build at a minimum a bike path on one side, and then we require a 10-foot sidewalk in front of all commercial development. So in our commercial areas, we pay the difference between a 5-foot sidewalk and a 10-foot sidewalk to put those in our commercial areas. So very walkable community. We have had great partnerships on several projects, including our bike paths. Aviation Pathway goes up Buckner and Derby, which turns into Oliver. It heads to Spirit, now Boeing. That was a partnership with WAMPO and Derby and Sedgwick County, and it connects Derby's entire bike path system to Wichita's entire bike path system. So then in 2020, we had a 3-way partnership with Sedgwick County, the city of Derby, and Mulvane, and we did the same thing where we built several miles of bike path down to Mulvane. And so now Mulvane is connected to Derby's bike path and then also to Wichita's bike path. So you can get on a bike path in Mulvane and go all the way into Wichita's bike path system if you want to. The county was good enough a while back to build about 2 miles of bike path with their 63rd Street project. We think eventually there will be a connection to Rose Hill there, so that will tie them back in to Derby and then to Wichita. And ultimately, we'd like to see it go up to McConnell on Rock Road, build another Wichita connection, and connect McConnell Air Force Base to Derby. So WAMPO projects, this is one we just finished. We just had a ribbon cutting a couple of weeks ago. Nelson Drive in Derby has been a bit of a problematic area for us. This all started with a TEEP study through KDOT. Nelson Drive literally sits like 60 feet off of K-15. So every time you have a arterial street come in, you have almost a 6-legged interchange. So we did a TEEP study. It showed that we had more accidents, which we already knew, than we should at those intersections. It offered suggestions on what to do. We originally built a median at Red Powell. It was very effective and very unpopular. So we reimagined that. That was one of the cheaper options that was presented in the TEEP study. We did an area plan for this area of K15. This area back behind the roundabout is an area that we annexed from the county in 2000. It is an old industrial area. Those buildings were built in the 60s and 70s. They have outlived their useful life. They look way better in that picture than if you're standing out there, I'll tell you right now. So this is definitely a plan to reinvest in the K15 corridor. Those lots are deep, narrow lots. They have excellent visibility from K15 and had really poor access. So the access and circulation is something that we improved. We built a roundabout here. This is Walmart. There's a traffic signal, a new traffic signal on K15, and then we will build this rearage road so that these deep lots will actually have a road on both sides, and that rearage road will eventually connect north to where Menards is going to be built. So that is a WAMPO project that we just finished. We just submitted PS&E for our Rock Road project, which is our other WAMPO project that we've been working on. This basically reconstructs Rock Road like we have south of this location to an urban standard. So as we've developed north, we've annexed, we've taken over the streets, we've reconstructed to an urban standard. So we'll be putting turn lanes in. We'll put a bike path in along that corridor. Like I said, this is Greenwood Village right here. That's 160 acres that is platted for development. This is 120 acres of Sky Ridge that is platted with the streets and infrastructure are going in for the first phase. And they called me this week about the second phase of Sky Ridge already. So, and then there's 40 acres over here that has been annexed, is purchased and is for sale. So we will completely redo the intersection and redo the traffic signal at that location also and add turn lanes to it. So that's another partnership with WAMPO. For the most part, our projects with WAMPO have been on K15 or on Rock Road or make regional connections to other communities like our bike path projects do. Those are corridors that it's not just Derby using. We consider them regionally significant corridors because a lot of people are traveling to and from work along those corridors that aren't necessarily just Derby residents. ARC 95 is probably our biggest transportation priority. This is not just a Derby effort. It was originally justified by a study that was conducted by WAMPO, the South Area Transportation Study in 2008. That study identified the need for a railroad crossing and a river crossing in addition to what's there now. Those bridges just don't have the capacity. I want to say it's 8 miles from 83rd Street down to the next bridge to cross the Ark River, which is clear down at K53 outside of the casino. And there is no grade separated crossing of BNSF south of Kellogg. So the 95th Street corridor, the county then subsequently in 2017 went back and evaluated based on that SAT study and did a great job of laying out a phasing plan, what the improvements cost, and is in the process right now of working on a protective overlay. There are several communities who are contributing to a fund at the county that helps pay some of those costs. The county has put money into that, which we very much appreciate. And most recently, through Senator Moran's office, $3 million was awarded for the continued design of the ARC 95 improvement. So this is big, not just for us. It's Rose Hill, it's Mulvane, it's Clearwater, it's Hayesville. That whole south area needs this transportation and circulation just because the infrastructure to get across the railroad and the river aren't there. This also includes turnpike access at 95th Street. So the value of that is a lot of the traffic that comes through Derby and is between Derby and Boeing is heading up to 47th Street and turning left on 47th Street to go over to 235. So this provides freight and other vehicles an opportunity to get on the turnpike without using that corridor. KDOT is working on a study right now or a plan to preserve the K15 corridor. I said before, K15 is really precarious because you've got a railroad right next to it. Everything's built up next to it. It's really hard to expand K15. So you've got to find better ways to preserve the capacity of K15 for the long term. So ARC 95 does that. It helps K15. It also improves circulation in the area, provides grade separated access across the river and the railroad tracks, and better turnpike access, and opens that whole corridor up for economic development. So, which I think is all on my next slide. So I kind of jumped ahead there. So. You guys are probably tired of listening to me talk. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer anything that you'd like to know. And again, I appreciate you having me.
Any questions?
Well, I'll just make a quick comment, of course. We're very proud of Mr. Squires and grateful that we've had him around for so long. Clearly, he's very knowledgeable about what he's doing. There's also all the soft elements of having someone in your organization for a long period of time, where Dan knows the history of a lot of things, which I think has been a value to WAMPO as well over the years. And clearly, he knows a lot about what's going on. Clearly, all of our staff are managing a lot of different projects, a lot of irons in the fire, and that wasn't even all of them, right? Because we didn't even touch on wastewater upgrades, new water treatment plant, senior center, police.
The
courts.
growth is a great thing. It does come with its own set of challenges. We're doing about 30 or $40 million worth of wastewater plant and improvements right now, and already looking at probably based on our new metering, having to do more than that to keep up with the wastewater flows. And we've got $42 million worth of water improvements as we go to put our 700 million gallons of water rights back online. So, which benefits not just the city, but the entire region by not absorbing that capacity that we don't have. So.
Great job as always.
All right. Any other questions for Dan?
Chairman, this is Jim Howell. I just wanted to say I appreciate the briefing as well. I'm extremely proud of Derby. I don't think Dan has shared all the news. I think he's been quite humble. There's a lot of good things going on down here, but it's hard to pick which things to talk about because there's so many. So the growth here feels like it's organic. It just is happening. Somehow it is continuing to expand with apparently not a lot of effort by city planners. It just seems like people are just wanting to be here. It's the place to be, and I'm really proud of Derby. It's an amazing community. I love living here, and I'm so glad that Dan took time to share the showcase of Derby today. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Maybe we could get a sidewalk between Hayesville and Derby. I know a lot of people have been asking me for that. So.
You know, ARC 95 includes sidewalk improvements.
That'd be years away.
I'm here for you.